So Skate 4 just officially got announced, and I wanted to talk about it because there's a lot of interesting things surrounding the game and what it's going to be like, and I figured why not say my piece on it. So as you can see, the game looks great, and I was honestly pretty excited. I was like, oh, this is a great sequel to Skate 4. This looks absolutely awesome from the clips I was seeing over on Twitter. But then I saw a headline from IGN where they said Skate 4 is officially called Skate, and it will be free to play and have cross-play and cross-progression. So to start off with, calling something a different name instead of the number it's in is always weird. Like with the Xbox series, you have Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One. It's kind of weird, especially if you're like a boomer and you're looking at it and you're like, which one is the most current one? Even now with the Series X, it's all out of whack. It's better to have the 1, 2, 3, and 4 thing. Even though I really don't care about the console wars at all. It's just the number sequencing is a little bit better on PlayStation because you actually know which one was the most recent. But that aside, it is really odd that games are so farly across the board becoming free to play and all this other stuff. It's also very worrying because we've seen a lot of free to play live service type of games that are not up to par to what you would expect. Now, continuing on in the article, I skipped a little bit, but it also explained why it chose to go with the name Skate as opposed to Skate 4, saying this is not a sequel, reboot, or remake, but a new platform that will be built upon for years to come. This means fans shouldn't expect a Skate 5 or 10, but should instead look forward to a skateboarding game that will continue to evolve for a very long time. As they put it, it is Skate period. So this reminds me of a quote from Todd Howard.
And we're 8 years post Skyrim. It's let us know going into Elder Scrolls 6 that this is a game we need to design for people to play for a decade at least.
I gotta say, this is again just really worrying and just honestly not a very good sign. It's not something that I really think should be happening with 90% of games because it really doesn't fit. Now, I saw another headline, almost said highlight, because I was looking into EA and just why they were so into live service games, and it turns out over 70% of EA's revenue comes from live service titles. So this is obviously something EA thinks is the future of gaming. Feels like ever since Fortnite became this big, huge, popular thing, everybody was just trying to capture that lightning in a bottle. We've had all these different attempts at live service games. I mean, Apex Legends is pretty much the only one that was able to really follow up Fortnite. Pretty much every other game that's been sort of live service has sort of fallen off, especially with like Fall Guys and things of that nature. I mean, look at Anthem.
One excerpt reads, perhaps the most alarming, it's a story about a studio in crisis. Dozens of developers, many of them decades-long veterans, have left BioWare over the past 2 years. Many say they or their co-workers had to take stress leave, a doctor-mandated period of weeks or even months worth of vacation for their mental health.
That clip I just showed you was just a microcosm of how bad it was, and the game intrinsically was flawed. You could literally just fly away from any interaction and altercation at the same time and just mess me up completely. But you could fly away from any fight completely. A lot of times in games with jetpacks, they'll have a cooldown timer where you can't just fly around for the entire game, because if you did that, it wouldn't be as fun. And it makes the time that you do have use of your jetpack more valuable. So that's just something to think on, and it's something that just made the game of Anthem just bad from the start. But we're here to talk about Skate. Now, Skate actually got a pretty mixed response from the community, and the main criticism is the fact that it's going to be a live service game. There's going to be a Skate Pass. Now, this guy named Nibel came out and said that the microtransactions are supposed to be focusing on cosmetics and convenience. The only problem is, last month he convinced almost the entire internet that Bloodborne was going to be coming to PC. In fact, I was going to make a video about how many people, including myself, momentarily got tricked. The first, I was going to be like, oh, Bloodborne's coming to PC, and then I was going to be like, oh, everyone's getting tricked into thinking Bloodborne's coming to PC, but then something crazy happened. I was like, oh, I want to talk about that more. But yeah, so take that with a grain of salt. I really don't trust that guy after what he did. But at the end of the day, Skate really is something that you can't really pay to win, like a skating game, unless you're like doing competitions where you have to show skill and you can only do an ollie, and a guy who paid $100 can do like a 360 backflip. Like, obviously the guy who paid $100 is gonna win, but if this guy can be believed, it's all going to be focused on cosmetics and convenience, maybe like a fast travel system, maybe more locations get unlocked quicker. I don't really know. I was more of a Tony Hawk's game, whatever those games were called. I forget, but I played those more than I ever played Skate, really. This game can still be good. I've already given examples of games that were live service and were good. Battlefront 2, the 2017 one, even got good towards the end. It wasn't as good at first, if I could speak correctly, but it eventually got better and better and better as time went on, and as they improved it. Of course, they abandoned it because it wasn't making enough money, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know if that'll happen to Skate, because they're clearly endeavoring to make this like a long-term thing, like Fortnite and Apex Legends have turned into. Whether they can do that is remaining to be seen, because you can only do so many things when you're skating. Now, they've showed interesting stuff, like a guy like going on monkey bars, but if I'm playing a skating game, am I really interested in that? No, I want to skate around. But again, there's only so many tricks you can do before you're like, oh, I'm bored of this, I want to go play a different game, or I don't want to play games anymore. And it'll be interesting to see if they can even build a sizable enough fan base to keep going and retain that fan base. Like Fortnite, the reason they were able to continue to be so good, and well, good's toss up and subjective because I haven't played it in like a year, but the reason they continue to improve and continue to be relevant is because they kept innovating. Like recently they made news because they decided to take building out of the game, which was an interesting choice that I preferred, because every time I played the game I'd be focused on shooting the guy because it's a shooter, and the guy would be like making this big ramp, or he'd like build a house around me. It's stupid. It wasn't really game breaking for me, but at the same time it wasn't engaging, you know. God, I got completely off the subject of Skate. I'm really interested to see where this game goes, because from what I've seen, this game is either going to be really good or really bad. I saw this really good clip of this guy like jumping off a building and like doing this spin and going down this ramp, and I thought it looked awesome. And if the whole game can do that stuff and it continues to improve from here, because the clips we're seeing right now are from the pre-alpha, which means it's got to go to pre-alpha and then alpha and then beta and actual production. So this game has a lot of time to improve, and it's already looking pretty good. So I don't know, really. I'm really wondering on whether or not this will be good, because at this point the whole live service thing is really raising a couple of red flags for me. I'm willing to look past that, of course, because I've been, once again, named a ton of live service games that have been good. But for every live service game that has been good, there's 20 that have just been horrible, and we've talked about them for maybe 2 weeks, and then they've been gone. I mean, the most recent example, Battlefield 2042, just sucked, and nobody talks about it anymore. One of the biggest franchises. It's way bigger than Skate. Just nobody talks about it anymore because of how bad it was. And it's EA. EA hasn't put out a good game in like a while, it feels like. other than Battlefront 2, a lot of their games have just fizzled out, especially with Madden. Company, the whole thing, again, it's just drawing a lot of red flags, but I'm going to wrap it up here. Let me know what you guys think. There's just such a teeter-totter here. I don't know what is going to happen. It's really interesting. This is rare for a game for me, because normally you can kind of tell, like, oh, this will be a pretty good game. Like with Elden Ring, it looked awesome from the beginning. With Cyberpunk, not so much. It looked awesome, and then it came out, and everyone was like, God, that's horrible. So again, we'll just have to see. If you have any constructive criticism, anything I can improve on, let me know. Goodbye.